Good afternoon and welcome to the New York City Council hearing of the Committee on Civil Service and Labor. At this time, can everybody please silence your cell phones? If you wish to testify, please come up to the sergeant's desk to fill out a testimony slip. Written testimony can be emailed to testimony@council.nyc.gov. Again, that is testimony@council.nyc.gov. At this time and going forward, no one is to approach the dais. I repeat, no one is to approach the dais. Thank you for your cooperation. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Good afternoon. I am Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa, Chair of the Committee on Civil Service and Labor. Thank you for joining today's hearing to discuss various aspects of the future of the municipal work for city employees. We'll also be hearing the following pieces of legislation. Intro 467, sponsored by myself. This local law will require every city agency to generate a policy regarding the usage of city-owned mobile phones, city electronic mail, and other forms of communication when employees are not at work. And Reso 481, sponsored by Councilmember Hudson, which calls on the New York State Legislature to pass and the governor to sign A1435, also known as the New York City Telework Expansion Act. In February of this year, Mayor Adams announced a tentative contract agreement with New York City's largest municipal union, DC 37. This agreement creates a flexible work committee that explored remote work options for municipal employees. And we were encouraged to see that their research culminated in a successful rollout of a telework pilot program in early June. It is imperative that the city evolve to meet the needs of municipal employees and demands of a changing workforce. I am eager to learn more about how this pilot program has been effectuated, as we want to ensure we implement telework in a logical and equitable manner. Is the city exploring incentives for those whose jobs cannot be performed remotely to avoid high turnover in selected titles? Will the city conduct an equity analysis to ensure that titles largely held by women and people of color are certified remote at similar rates as those held by white men? How has telework materially improved the experience of employees who are disabled? These are only some of the questions that must be answered to help implement this program thoughtfully and to ensure satisfaction across the city's workforce. In addition to the telework pilot program, we will be discussing the proposed budget cuts and hiring freeze that the mayor announced in early September. As our city attempts to provide a safe, humane, and dignified experience for asylees and migrants coming to New York City, the administration has requested a 5% cut from all agencies by November, with a total of 15% cuts by next April. Although the mayor pledges that there will be no layoffs as a result of the budget cuts, agencies will not be permitted to hire for open positions unless such positions are related to public health, public safety, or revenue generation. And even though agencies will only be permitted to, and even then, agencies will only be permitted to fill roles that are after a current employee departs. In data made available to us by the council's finance division, the current citywide vacancy rate stands at 6.6%, far greater than the pre-COVID rate of 2%. We must do everything we can to address government vacancy crisis and ensure we are delivering critical services for New Yorkers in a timely fashion. That is a priority for this committee and this body as a whole. I look forward to a productive discussion with the administration on the design of the telework pilot, the effects of the hiring freeze, and feedback on proposed legislation. I'd like to take a moment to thank our committee staff for their hard work in preparing for this hearing, policy analyst Elizabeth Arts and Rio Osawara. I'd also like to thank my staff, Chief of Staff James Burke, Legislative Director Kiana Diaz, and Communications Director Frey Familia. Okay, with that, I look forward to commencing the hearing. I know that Councilmember Hudson, who is sponsoring the bill, could not be here. She's on a maternity leave. We wish her all the best, and we look forward to hearing from the administration.
We will now hear testimony from the administration. Before we begin, I'll administer the affirmation. Panelists, will you please raise your right hand? I will read the affirmation once and then call on each of you individually to respond. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair De La Rosa and members of the Committee on Civil Service and Labor. My name is Daniel Pollack. I'm the first Deputy Commissioner at the New York City Office of Labor Relations, and I'm joined by Stella Zhu, Assistant Commissioner for Strategic Planning, Human Capital at the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today about this important topic. The City of New York has made tremendous progress in creating more workplace flexibility over the past several months, and I'm excited to report our efforts. The City and District Council 37 reached a tentative agreement in February that was overwhelmingly ratified at the end of March. The agreement included the creation of a flexible work committee where the parties set a joint goal of establishing a remote work pilot by June 1st, 2023. The committee also agreed to discuss other work flexibility options, including flexible and compressed schedules, but the priority was on establishing the remote work pilot by that deadline we agreed to. On June 1st, the City and DC 37 announced an agreement to launch that pilot, allowing eligible employees to work remotely for up to 2 days per week. The term of the pilot agreement is June 1st, 2023 to May 31st, 2025, with an option to automatically renew for an additional year if both parties agree. Under the terms of the pilot, the employing agency determines which employees have the ability to work remotely and how many days per week, up to 2 days. Employee participation is strictly voluntary. The union has provided a list of employees at each agency that has been determined eligible for remote work and has an opportunity to meet with each agency to discuss that list and any concerns the union has. The Flexible Work Committee, which has representatives from City Hall, DCAS, the Office of Management and Budget, OLR, the Law Department, and DC 37, including its various locals, is a collaborative committee which has been meeting regularly since April to create the pilot and now to oversee the rollout of the pilot. The committee will also continue to meet to discuss other work flexibility options, as mentioned earlier. In all, there are about 24,000 DC 37 employees who have been determined eligible for remote work across the mayoral agencies. As of today, 43 agencies have been approved to begin their pilots, and 34 agencies have actually kicked off those pilots, with more slated to start within the next month. Lastly, the city expects to add other non-DC 37 unions to the pilot upon ratification of their individual collective bargaining agreements, if those agreements include opting into the pilot. I'd now like to speak briefly on Introduction 467. This bill would require each city agency to develop a policy regarding off-hour work-related usage of electronic communications, including phone calls, text messages, and email, and to submit such policies to the mayor. We appreciate the importance of the underlying concerns behind this bill and that the implementation of remote work and a hybrid workforce brings new challenges. However, we need to ensure that agencies are able to communicate appropriately with employees to carry out their operations and must also be mindful of any impact or requirements related to collective bargaining. We look forward to working with the council to take a closer look at this issue. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, I also want to recognize our colleagues who have joined us here today, Council Members Menon, Joseph, and Nurse, and on the Zoom, we have Council Members Moya and Caban. Oh, and Council Member Batcher. All right. I'm going to start off with a few questions. Colleagues, if you have questions, please let Rie know. So a little bit, getting into the details of the agreement with DC 37. Can you outline the scope and design of the telework pilot program? How many employees are currently enrolled in telework pilot? And how many employees are waiting for approval from City Hall?
As I mentioned, there are 24,000 employees who have been determined to be eligible for the flexible work, the remote work pilot. In terms of awaiting approval from City Hall, I do not believe there are any agencies that are awaiting that. They've all been approved at this point, and there are just a few agencies, as I mentioned, that are still, slated to roll out in the next month or so.
Which agencies are those?
NYPD, Department of Probation, and there may be a handful of others
Those are the ones that are awaiting approval.
that are still working with DC 37 on having their proposal approved and for their employees to start.
And which ones are currently participating?
We can provide a list to the council. There are 34, as I mentioned, so.
Okay.
I would-
Yes, please provide that list. It's important for us to know that. Can you outline the employee eligibility criteria for the telework pilot? So if an employee wants to be considered, what does that process look like?
Sure. So initially, the determination is made by the agency. So the agency will determine that certain employees are eligible, and they will notify the employees that they're eligible. There are a number of criteria set forth in the agreement that includes that they should be employees whose tasks have measurable deliverables, that to the extent that they're hybrid duties, that the agencies should consider shifting certain duties so that some work can be performed remotely all on one day. The employee's job function should be one that doesn't require continued presence at the work site. There shouldn't be reduction in services provided to the public, and that an employee must have had satisfactory performance evaluations.
Okay.
Those are just some of the criteria involved. And if an employee is not initially selected to be eligible, there is a process. They're supposed to escalate that complaint to their supervisor, and then to then eventually to the agency head, and the final determination is made by the agency head as to whether or not that employee can be eligible.
So the breakdown you gave is 34 agencies are currently participating. There's about 5 or a handful of those that are awaiting. And what are we waiting for exactly from those handful of agencies? Are we waiting for like an agency plan, or is there some other final approval step that is needed?
So part of the process is that DC 37 has provided a list of eligible employees, and typically then there's a meeting between the union and the agency before it kicks off. So those are ones where either the meeting hasn't happened yet or the meeting has happened, but they're just, in the time period before it actually starts, but they're all in process.
Okay. So once it is determined that there is eligibility for an employee to enter telework, what happens then? How is the employee notified, and what are the parameters that are given?
So they would typically be notified by their supervisor. It may work differently in each agency, but the agency, as I said, will through some method determine which employees are eligible, and then once there's final approval, they'll notify all employees who are eligible. The employee will then have to fill out a remote work acknowledgement form, setting forth the terms of their remote work, including the location, how many days per week, what equipment they'll be using, and so on. And then that will be signed by their supervisor.
At this time, is the administration exploring providing monetary compensation or other incentives to employees whose job can't be performed remotely?
Monetary compensation is not something we're exploring. The DC 37 agreement does call for discussion of other flexible scheduling options, including compressed work weeks and flexible schedules, and that's something we'll continue to discuss with the Flexible Work Committee.
Can you talk a little bit about the appeals process if someone requests telework and they're denied?
Sure. Just one moment. As I mentioned, that would start by going to the employee's supervisor to have that conversation. After that, they would go to the Human Resources Department of the agency. And after that, if they're still denied, they have the right to go to the agency head for a final determination.
Okay. And I wanted to ask a little bit about vulnerable populations who request accommodations, people who may have some disabilities, older employees who may have been immunocompromised or have other health concerns. What is the considerations being given to these vulnerable populations at this time?
So for a reasonable accommodation request, the employees would go through the standard reasonable accommodation process with their EO officer. Each instance would be decided on a case-by-case basis. They engage in a cooperative dialogue with the EO officer, and the EO officer would work with them to provide any accommodations that they may be seeking.
what if it's found that an immunocompromised employee or someone who needs the accommodation is denied? Then what is the process? They have an appeals process, I understand that, but what other accommodations are made?
So the reasonable accommodation process kind of runs parallel with the telework pilot, meaning absent a telework pilot, an immunocompromised, somebody with a disability could still request reasonable accommodation to telework. So that's been in place since before COVID and will continue to be in place, that anybody, regardless of whether they're in DC 37, regardless if they're eligible to, regardless of their union's that affiliation, would be able to request reasonable accommodation.
Ultimately, the agency head has the final determination. So in the case where a supervisor who is charged with approving telework accommodations for employees under their jurisdiction or under their supervision, if that supervisor is requesting telework accommodations, then who makes that final final approval for that supervisor?
So if they're going through the reasonable accommodation process, that process falls outside of the supervisor-employee relationship, and it will go directly to that agency's EEO office, and the EEO officer will engage in a cooperative dialogue with the employee, and they will be working together to accommodate the employee where there's not undue hardship on the
And
the
what if
agency.
it's through the pilot, through this remote pilot? It's not a reasonable accommodation, but they're requesting it through the remote pilot. So
if it's not a reasonable accommodation, then they wouldn't. Then it will fall into the supervisor's discretion. If they don't, if the reason they're requesting a reasonable accommodation does not meet the standards, then it will go back to the supervisor approving whether or not they could telework.
So under the DC 37 agreement and the pilot, they would have to also file for a reasonable accommodation. It couldn't just be an employee who's looking to work remotely under the pilot.
So the reasonable accommodation process also protects the employee. It sets across a schedule, set standards and equipment they may need, and in case the teleworking ends or whatever reason, that employee is still protected through the reasonable accommodation process. So that process protects the employee by making very clear guidelines on what they are entitled to.
With the historic, I would say, rates of vacancies at our city agencies, are we nervous or, have hesitations about the ability to actually process and deliver the remote pilot by the deadline and doing everything that we need to do in order to make sure that folks are reporting to work and getting the accommodations they need?
Yeah, I think, at this point, as I mentioned, we've rolled out the pilot to a very large number of employees, and I think, successfully so far. Obviously, we'll continue to monitor it, but I think our success so far shows that we are able to do it. And, as we add more unions, those are smaller unions than DC 37, so there'll be smaller numbers.
And with the vacancy rate, you all know that the remote pilot can still be successful. So what I'm getting towards is, if you have 5 employees in an office who are now carrying, double the workload because of the vacancy rate, if 2 of those employees are now remote, you still feel confident that we're going to be able to deliver the critical services that the agency needs to deliver?
Yeah, obviously this is a pilot, and the reason it's a pilot is that, we want to monitor this and make sure there's no sacrifice in delivery of services. But, the reason we did this and agreed to do this is because we do hope that services can continue to be delivered with the exact same efficiency while people are working remotely.
When the remote work is authorized, is that employee given a last date for remote work? So are they told you're remote until May 2025, or is there sort of a time period that's assigned to the remote accommodation?
It would just be for the term of the pilot unless otherwise revoked. So, it could be, under the pilot, it can be revoked at any time. But if someone's told that they are eligible for telework under the pilot, the presumption is they will be doing it for the entire pilot unless it's revoked.
And you all are not expecting to revoke the telework pilot based on agency vacancy?
I can't speak to what we'll do in the future. You know, we'll be monitoring the how it proceeds, and you know, if there's no sacrifice in services, we hope to continue it.
Does the agreement with EC 37 speak to that at all?
It says either party may terminate it upon 30 days notice. So
30
either-
days notice.
Yes. Correct.
So the employee would be notified 30 days before, in writing.
No, an individual. So there's different criteria. An individual employee, we specify that it should be as soon as practicable. I believe. Just give me a moment. We do set forth a time frame. Termination of the entire pilot. We have to give the union 30 days notice for
The
that.
union.
So if we right, so that's if we were to terminate the entire pilot. But if we were to terminate an individual employee's telework because an agency is, you know, determines it's not working, that is 1 week's written notice is the requirement, or 24 hours in the case of an emergency.
So what if the employee has also a reasonable accommodation for health concerns? Is it the same timeline, a week and 48 hours?
No, and that's why, you know, the reasonable accommodation process happens outside of telework.
Okay.
If the pilot were for some reason to cease, if a person has a reasonable accommodation, that their reason for having to accommodate reasonable accommodations, disability or what have you, they would still have it no matter what's happening with the pilot, and they would continue to have that accommodation.
Okay, I'm gonna pass. I have more questions, but I'm gonna pass it on to my colleagues for some questions. I know Councilmember Menon has one.
Thank you so much, Chair, for holding this really important hearing. I have a number of questions. So you mentioned in your testimony that 24,000 city workers are eligible. What I didn't hear in the testimony is of the 24,000 eligible, how many today are availing themselves of this policy?
We'll have to look into that, I think, and get back to you. I think that's the number that have been determined eligible on the approved lists. You know, as I said, there are 9 agencies that still haven't rolled out yet, so it would include those agencies. But, you know, within each agency, we'll see what information we have. We may not have, you know, the details of this person declined to work remotely, for example. We know centrally how many an agency said are eligible to work and that were approved to do so, but we can't know for certain if you know, this employee declined to, this employee a week after it was for whatever reason determined it wasn't working and they were asked to come back in. We may not have that level of detail, but we'll provide what we can.
I would just ask, since this is a hearing on this topic, that this seems like a very basic question to ask, that this committee should be provided with this, like, literally most baseline information about how many city workers are availing themselves of this policy. You also mentioned that it is in the discretion of the agencies in terms of how they're determining some of this. Is that the sole discretion of the agency commissioner in each agency?
Well, there are guidelines in the remote work agreement for what they have to consider in the process, and what the agreement provides is an agency ultimately has discretion to say whether or not an employee meets those guidelines. But if an agency actually violated the terms of some agreement, if they didn't consider things at all, if they're treating people arbitrarily, that would be subject to the grievance process.
Okay, moving on, I just have 2 more questions. I want to build upon what the chair was asking about the hiring freeze and the PEGs. I'm deeply concerned about this, and I just really want to hear more about how you feel with this hiring freeze and the fact that we have over 20,000 vacancies, how this is not going to be affecting city services.
I'm sorry, do you mean the pilot or the PEG
No,
program?
I'm talking about the PEGs now. I'm talking about the proposed hiring freeze, the proposed 15% PEGs, and its effect. I mean, if you read the recent mayor's management report, it does show a significant slowdown in many city agencies' delivery of services. So how is moving forward, if there is a proposed 15% PEG, and you overlay that with the hiring freeze and the fact that we have over 20,000 city vacancies, how is that not going to be affecting the delivery of city services?
So I would have to defer any questions on the PEG and the hiring freeze to the Office of Management and Budget that issued the policy. They're obviously not present today.
Okay, I have one last question. Okay, according to reports, it's been indicated that agencies will not be permitted to hire for open positions unless they're related to public health, public safety, or revenue generation. Is that correct? And if that is correct, can you please define what constitutes public health, public safety, and revenue generation?
Again, I'd have to defer those questions to the Office of Management and Budget. That was issued by that office, and it's not a question I'm able to answer today.
Okay, it's just frustrating because these are incredibly important decisions and they do, relate to obviously the topic of the hearing. So would really ask that we be able to get this information to this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Menon, and I agree with your sentiments. I did want to ask about specific agencies. I know that there has been some articles I was reading in the press about NYCHA. So I wanted to ask, agency specific, in terms of NYCHA, right? We've heard that there is sort of a different policy at NYCHA when it comes to remote work and what's been offered to workers. Can you speak to that? Why is there differences based on agency?
Sure. So I can briefly speak to it. The policy that was designed with the Remote Work Committee applies to the mayoral agencies. So it did not include either NYCHA, the Department of Education, or Health and Hospitals. Those entities kind of determine their own policies related to that. NYCHA would do its own bargaining with any union on this issue, and wasn't subject to our agreement.
You said NYCHA, H&H, and the DOE?
Yes.
Wouldn't you, would you agree that this creates a two-tier system of remote work policy for the city?
It creates different policies, at least right now. I do know the Department of Education does have its own remote work policy that they are either working on or have been working on. But these agencies, as I mentioned, have different HR policies. We have different even collective bargaining agreements with different unions. So they are non-mayoral agencies. They have their own imperatives, and that's something that we, the Office of Labor Relations and DTAS, don't oversee for those agencies.
Got it. When you first testified, you said that there was about a handful of agencies that still were waiting approval, and then I heard you say 9 agencies. Do you have that list now?
So we can provide the list. I just want to note they have been approved by City Hall, so they're just going through the final steps of the process. At this point, that would be the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, the Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings, Landmarks Preservation, Department of Correction, Department of Consumer Protection, the CCRB, CCHR, and ACS, I believe. We'll get a final list to you. I believe those are the agencies, but we'll send a full list to you after this hearing.
Okay. Would the approval of the telework plans for some of these involve other unions other than DC 37?
No, at this point it's just DC 37. They're the only union that has ratified an agreement containing the telework provision. Other unions, there are other unions who have reached agreements but have not yet ratified, and upon ratification, they will also go through the approval process.
So, for example, the corrections, you're not in this case talking to the corrections union on their telework.
This would be about DC 37 at this point.
Okay.
The correction has DC 37 members.
Yes.
They have obviously office-based employees as well. I don't anticipate correction officers would be a title that would work remotely.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to pass it over to Councilmember Nurse for some questions.
Thank you, Chair. Can you give me a can you break down a little bit of the timeline? In your testimony, you said 34 agencies have kicked off their pilot. When you say that, what date are you referring to? Or what month?
That would be at some time since June. So it went in stages, as they received City Hall approval, as they then met with DC 37 to go over their lists. Different agencies kicked off in different months. So that would be as of now.
And so in terms of going back to Councilmember Menon's question, what month were people starting to take advantage of this opportunity?
I do believe some agencies began in June.
In June, okay. And does the Flexible Work Committee or your office have any tracker for monitoring how many people are going to take advantage of this program?
So what we have at this time is the list that were provided by agencies of who is eligible. We don't have a tracker as to how many people are actually have opted to volunteer to work remotely if they are eligible.
Can you tell us how you plan to track progress of this pilot? Like, what are the data sets what's the information that you're going to be collecting from this? Like, how will you plan to monitor and evaluate and provide analysis on this program, so that the next time we have a hearing about it, that we have some actual we're guaranteed or assured that you'll have tools that you will be using to help us understand and do oversight of this stuff.
So under the pilot, each agency is required to explain how they are going to monitor the effectiveness of the pilot. So, each agency, depending on the job, depending on the division, would have set forth different criteria and different things they're going to be looking at. So, obviously the remote work committee or the work flexibility committee, as well as the administration generally, will be talking to agencies about what those metrics reveal as the pilot continues to roll out and has been in place for some period of time.
And I get that different agencies might have additional or specific things to be looking at in terms of the effectiveness of the pilot, but is there some kind of streamlined standard set of information that we'll be able to glean from this, or that you all are able to collect?
I think that's something that we'll continue to work on and develop as this rolls out.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be very important, given that this is the first time, to make sure that we're adequately setting up the ability to track progress on this from jump, that even though each agency has something different, that there's some kind of baseline of what we're collecting, both to tell us the story of who takes advantage of this, why, and how it affects not only different agencies, but just the overall city's ability to offer this and expand it. Thank you, Chair.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Joseph.
Thank you, Chair. I have a quick question. When will the administration start advertising that work remote option will be available to appeal to job applicants who are looking for that hybrid model?
So over the summer, we did advise our agency personnel officers for their eligible DC 37 titles to put that language, it was 2 sentences, in their job postings. So, and as more unions sign on, we can look into having that be an automatic language that's added. But for now, if they're in a DC 37 title, agencies were asked to put that blurb onto their job postings.
Thank you. And also, we noticed because of hiring shortages, I know the city was looking at residency issues. Is that going to be offered across the board for municipal workers, or just for, I know lawyers, administration, city lawyers were being offered that because there was a shortage. Is that being offered across the city?
So I think you're referring to the hard to recruit list. The hard to recruit list has been maintained by DCAS. If an agency can show that there is hardship in recruitment for that title, it goes on a hard to recruit list, and it makes it residency exempt. That list has been in existence since COVID. It will be in existence after COVID, and that process will continue. So if any time an agency feels that it has difficulty recruiting in a particular title, they can petition the DCAS General Counsel's office, and they'll make the evaluation on its addition onto the hard to recruit list.
Okay, thank you. What incentives beyond telework pilot are you considering to retain for retention rates? Because we notice across the city there's a retention rate in agencies, and as Councilmember Menon mentioned, services are being lagged behind because there's no one to do the work.
So per the DC 37 agreement, we are going to be also discussing flexible scheduling, which could include flexible arrival and departure times, as well as compressed work weeks with the Work Flexibility Committee.
And that would be one way to, any other creative ways for retention rate, for retention?
So those are the scheduling ways we were doing that. Certainly, we continue to collectively bargain with unions for their contracts, and a big part of that obviously is recruitment retention. In our agreement with District Council 37, we include the creation of an equity fund, which has funding set aside to address titles with recruitment and retention issues. With other unions, as we reach agreements, we look to prioritize things that would aid in recruitment and retention.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I want to recognize Councilmember Dinowitz has joined us. I want to ask a few questions about my bill, Intro 467. And I want to just recognize that now Queensborough President Donovan Richards first came up with this idea. It's not an original Carmen De La Rosa thought, but I support it, and I was happy to reintroduce the Borough President's bill. So as you know, during the pandemic, we learned that the lines between working and non-working hours can be blurred because we're often accessible through our devices. We want to understand a little bit of your position that you've taken on this bill. Does DCAS provide any guidance to city agencies about what constitutes communication during non-work hours, or any guidance to city employees or managers about communicating during non-work hours?
So currently, there is no DCAS-based citywide guidance on this important issue. Each agency has different needs for its operations, and even within an agency, different titles can have different needs for their operations. For example, I oversee the Office of Citywide Occupational Safety and Health, and they might have a reason to go off for an off-site visit. That may be something they want to know the night before or the morning of, so that they can build it into their travel time. So based on that and the different agency needs, we're just really looking forward to working with the agencies to see what their policies may stipulate based on their own agency's requirements.
And if non-work hour communication is needed, will you consider this overtime and compensation for overtime pay?
So this, go ahead.
It depends on the circumstances and the title, and the employee. So for employees who are covered by the Fair Labor Standards Act, that federal law would govern. And for other employees, it would depend on their collective bargaining agreement, what happens in cases where they perform work off duty.
Okay. Any other questions, colleagues?
Chair De La Rosa, I do have some of the information that the panel requested earlier.
Yes.
So approximately 20,000 employees have already started working remotely. So of the 24,000 we said are eligible, approximately 20,000 have already started. In terms of the agencies that are still awaiting their start dates, the Office of Chief Medical Examiner and the Landmarks Preservation Commission will be starting next week. And the remaining 7 are Administration for Children's Services, the Commission on Human Rights, the Civilian Complaint Review Board, MOE, I believe, is the Mayor's Office of Equity, I'm sorry. Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings, the Sheriff's Office, and Cultural Affairs.
Okay, thank you for those clarifying points. I did want to ask about, will the city conduct an equity analysis to make sure that titles largely held by women and people of color are approved at similar rates?
Yeah, so right now, because the pilot is limited to DC 37 titles, the work is determined by who is in DC 37. As the more unions sign on, and as this becomes a more established practice within city service, that is certainly something each agency's EO officer can look at, as they do in other cases like layoffs.
Okay. I did want to, I know that Councilmember Menon touched a little bit on this, but we are obviously all concerned about the delivery of critical services, a hiring freeze, possible pegs and cuts to our critical services for the city. When hiring is put on hold, oftentimes the city workforce is, as I said earlier, given additional roles and responsibilities. Some of these folks will be new hires that are being brought on. This can lead to burnout. Is there any guidance or counsel that you're giving to city agencies about how to prepare for existing possible cuts and the hiring freeze that has been proposed? And again, will this impact at all the remote work pilot?
There's no guidance that my office has provided at this time. Obviously, the announcement just came. I will note that our office, OLR, does offer the city's employee assistance program, and we do, as part of that program.
What's the name?
The employee assistance program. As part of that program, especially in recent years, we have been trying to target for services employees who may be experiencing burnout or other work-related stress to help them with those issues, refer them to providers if needed. So we will continue to do that now and in the future. In terms of an impact on the telework pilot, at this time, there's no impact. We can expect to continue to offer the pilot and continue to monitor it to make sure it's meeting the goals of both us and the union. And the goal is obviously twofold. It's to enhance recruitment and retention, to provide more flexibility for employees, and then also to ensure that operations are delivered adequately. So we'll be monitoring it for both those purposes, regardless of any upcoming pegs.
This question is more for DCAS. Given that the mayor has partnered and collaborated with a lot of us to bring the hiring halls to our community, now that a hiring freeze has been announced, will those hiring halls continue?
So thank you for that question. We're obviously very proud of our hiring halls. We held 17 since February, made close to 2,200 job offers. I will note that our September hiring hall was put on hold because of the announcement of the hiring freeze. Right now, the OMB letter had just come out, and we're in a period evaluation. And once we have more information about what the implications of the hiring hall are on agency operations, as you have noted earlier, they do make exceptions for certain titles, and those are certainly the titles that we actively recruit for at the hiring halls. Right now, we're just taking a pause to assess to see whether or not they will be continued.
So of the 2,200 job offers that have been made, are those impacted at all by the recent announcement, the hiring freeze, or any of
So the hiring freeze goes into effect October 1st. It's our understanding that anything that's in the pipeline will not be affected, but likewise, I would like to defer those questions to OMB.
Well, again, just reemphasizing how we all feel here. We know that there is we are in a fiscal crisis at this moment, but we also know that it is important for us to deliver the critical services to New Yorkers, and part of that is making sure that we have a workforce that is robust, not only in the numbers, but also in their ability to carry out the critical services to our city. And so I know OMB is not here today, but we're looking forward to really engaging in those conversations as the council gears up for budget talks. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We will now turn to public testimony. We will be limiting public testimony today to 3 minutes each. I would like to note that written testimony, which will be reviewed in full by committee staff, may be submitted to the record up to 72 hours after the close of this hearing by emailing it to testimony@council.nyc.gov. For in-person panelists, please come up to the table once your name has been called. For virtual panelists, once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you, and the Sergeant-at-Arms will set the timer and give you the go-ahead to begin. Please wait for the sergeant to announce that you may begin before delivering your testimony. We'll be starting with in-person registrants, Dan Krupp, Vinuri Ranawira, Matt Malloy, and Marianne Pizzatola. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Please come up to the table. Dan Krupp, when you are ready and the Sergeant at Arms has set the clock, you may begin.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon, Chair De La Rosa, members of the Committee on Civil Service and Labor. My name is Daniel Krupp. I'm president of the Association of Legislative Employees, the staff union here at the New York City Council. ALE is very proud to be the largest union of legislative staff in the country. First off, we want to congratulate our union siblings in the Writers Guild on their tentative agreement. It's very big news. And also say that we stand in solidarity. I'm having a little bit of trouble with this microphone, aren't we, today? Stand in solidarity with striking workers who are out on the line with the UAW and with SAG-AFTRA today for a fair contract. These strikes are about making sure that workers see their fair share of the enormous profits created in their industries. Through the collective power of unions, workers can end the historic levels of inequality in the United States today. We're grateful to provide testimony at today's oversight hearing because ALE believes that the future of municipal work will have 4 key features. The first is it will be unionized. Unions ensure that workers' voices are heard. Staff in both the City Council and the Public Advocate's Office have won union recognition, as have a growing number of workers in New York City's massive nonprofit sector in recent years. Yet the pace of bargaining first contracts remains too slow, and that's true for both the public and the private sector. Starbucks employees and the Amazon workers on Staten Island are 2 examples of this. Workers deserve a fair contract in a reasonable time frame, not years after unionization. Union contracts change people's lives. They establish just cause, which protects workers from capricious mistreatment or dismissal. And they're a powerful mechanism for higher wages, overtime compensation, regular cost of living adjustments, pay parity within jobs, and much more. The NLRB and the Council can do more to secure strong union rights. The Council led the way on this with Local Law 2 of 2021, which gave access to just cause protections to fast food workers after 1 month on the job. There are many other contracts out there in the public and the private sector that have much longer probationary periods, which is concerning. Government should set the standard when it comes to working conditions, and I think that's part of the reason why I recognize the work of the chair and the committee in holding this hearing today. Government should be supporting qualified, unionized civil servants with high-quality health care as well as those means to retire with dignity. So in addition to a unionized future for municipal work, the future of municipal work will be hybrid-enabled. Hybrid has existed in regular form at the Council since the pandemic, but only for some staff. Hybrid means working in person and at home and on the go. A large share of workers in this economy could benefit from some hybrid work. Council members, you're all hybrid enabled already, commuting throughout your districts in the city every day to do your job. The flexibility that hybrid affords in the face of pandemics, disasters, caregiving responsibilities, and disabilities makes work more accessible and protects government services from disruption. If I could just have another 30 seconds, thank you. It's the best of both worlds and should be a joint labor management effort. So third, municipal work should be sustainable. And in this context, sustainability means ending the culture of burnout, which I was pleased to hear the committee and the agency representatives discuss earlier. The culture of burnout needs to be replaced with supportive workplaces where staff can perform at their peak over the long term, successfully navigate personal and professional challenges, and maintain good health. And part of that is the right to disconnect from mobile devices. There's a growing evidence of science showing that excessive digital communications are detrimental to overall health. And finally, municipal work will be equitable. For ALE, this rests on 4 principles: democratic representation, equal worth, anti-oppression, and fair distribution of resources, with a long-term goal to remove disparities within groups with different levels of social advantage. The city will attract the best and most diverse workforces if it integrates equity into all aspects of its strategy and operations. So thank you for the opportunity to testify. We're proud to be in solidarity with the New York labor movement, to play our part advocating for improved working conditions, greater respect on the job, and equity in conclusion. We believe the Council can and must be a productive partner in achieving that vision, and happy to answer any questions along with the panel when they're finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinuri Ranawira. Please start.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Vinuri Ranawira, and I'm the Vice President of ALE, the City Council's union. ALE represents almost 400 council member aides and finance division staff. One of our members' top priorities is to standardize hybrid work. And we welcome Councilmember Hudson's resolution on the state to pass the New York City Teleworking Expansion Act. This would require city agencies, which we believe the council is included in, to establish a policy that would allow staff to perform at least some of their jobs remotely. Providing hybrid flexibility for city council staff is an effective way to retain talent, support caregivers, and increase protective measures against COVID-19 and other viruses. It also allows for a more diverse workforce and even more productivity. This clearly matters, as exhibited by the exodus of city workers after the mayor ended their access to hybrid work. Last year, Speaker Adams extended hybrid work to non-managerial central staff at the council, including the finance and legislative divisions, but not to council member aides. This was a significant step forward, but perpetuates the council's tiered workplace culture, where some staff have access to hybrid work, but many who serve council members do not. It is well documented that the City Council has an extremely high rate of staff turnover relative to other mayoral agencies. Between fiscal year 15 to fiscal year 23, the citywide average vacancy rate was 3.2%, but the council's was at 11%. Giving councilmember aides the same flexibility that central staff already have will help to reverse this trend. Because of the clear benefits of hybrid work, some councilmember offices have already allowed for it and have created numerous ways to provide in-person services to their constituents while allowing for a couple remote working days. We commend Councilmember Hudson's resolution to expand telework and urge the Speaker to standardize its existing hybrid work policy across the board to all council staff. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Matt Malloy, please begin once the sergeant cues you.
Thank you, Walter. Thank you, Chair De La Rosa. My name is Matthew Malloy. I'm our union's stewards representative. It's my responsibility to coordinate with all the shop stewards in all your offices, make sure that they have support and are able to, handle any workplace grievance issues that come along the way. The City Council Staff Union ALE is very pleased to testify today in support of Intro 0467. Our union seeks to be a collaborative partner with the council to identify ways to make working at the council a fulfilling experience for our current staff and an attractive prospect for potential applicants. Long working hours was one of the central motivations behind the push to establish a staff union at the City Council. Currently, on top of their regular 9-to-5 schedule, council staff on average work an extra 11.8 hours a week. That rounds up to about 600 hours every year, and yet they are not compensated for this additional labor. Much of the excess work hours they're experiencing are a product of the fact that council staff are frequently expected to check their work phones and work emails outside of normal business hours. Staff receive and are often expected to respond to communications late at night, early in the morning, and throughout the weekend. Depending on the office and supervisor, not responding to a work text or email in a rapid fashion, even outside of business hours, can be grounds for disciplinary action. ALE has already sent formal complaints to OGC and EEO defending staff who were asked to continue working remotely while using sick time to recover from COVID, asked to produce briefing materials on a moment's notice during a federal holiday, and it is indeed not uncommon for staff to be called upon late at night to handle real emergencies like responding to a fire or another dire act in the district. Currently, there are no protections from discipline or termination for staff who are unable to respond to requests outside of their working hours. And many staff are essentially on call indefinitely. Even doctors put on call, they get a break, and we are not suggesting that the council become a 9-to-5 organization where you leave at 5 on Friday and you don't worry about anything till you get back on Monday. We know that that's not the nature of our work, and we are receptive to that, and we understand that. But what we are calling for, and what we think this bill calls for, is to shape the parameters around communications outside of work and what those support systems are going to be like. Because right now there are no standards. It's a little bit like the Wild West. So we're not, like I'm saying, we're not asking for this to be like a see you next Monday kind of job. We get that, but we want there to be standards and support systems. The current system of every staffer being on call at all times with no disciplinary protections is not sustainable. It leads to severe burnout, and like my colleague Venuri has pointed out, this is a large reason why the vacancy rates at the council are so high. We're proud to support Intro 0467. We think the council should lead the way on this policy and on these, out of work communications. And if the council is hearing this legislation, if they're calling for this legislation to be passed, then we think that the council should walk the walk as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Marianne Pizzatola, please begin once the sergeant cues you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Marianne Pizzatola from the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees. I got it. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you, Chair, for holding this hearing. In an ever-changing world, the challenges that the city and this committee have to face to retain and attract employees is ever increasing. You find yourself having to think outside the box and implement creative ideas that were used in the past sometimes by others. While the mayor can implement a no-bid contract, labor might have to come together with you to implement a remote policy instead of having to wait for the lengthy, often delayed process of bargaining, or maybe even operate within a side letter until an agreement could be reached. These seem to be urgent times where we are extremely short-staffed, as well as even labor relations, where it could be hours on the phone before we can even reach somebody there. As this panel questions the administration on reasonable accommodation and caring for your most vulnerable workers, I ask that you hold the retirees in the same regard. Delivery of critical services for the city is vitally important. The benefits we earned and access to life-saving health care is equally as important, and the city should be making opportunities to make city service more attractive, and good health care is one of those things. As president of the New York City Retirees, our battle cry has been promises made should be promises kept, or this city will continue to struggle to attract and retain great New Yorkers willing to serve. In closing, we have asked for a hearing on Councilman Barron's Intro 1099, and we have not received a commitment from this committee. We've also asked for meetings from several of the members of this committee as well as others in the council, and have not received many responses. We do look forward to meeting with each and every one of you. Thank you, Chair De La Rosa and this committee.
Thank you all for coming today and for sharing your testimony, valuable information we've heard here, and we look forward to continuing the conversation. I don't know if any colleagues have questions. Nope. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now be calling a hybrid panel. We call Heather James, Alice Wong, Daryl Sims, and Tawaki Komatsu. Thank you. We will be calling Alice Wong and Daryl Sims first. I believe that you are both testifying together. The Zoom host will unmute you both at the same time. Whoever is going to be testifying first, please feel free to speak once the sergeant cues you. Thank you very much.
You may begin.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you unmute Daryl first?
Yes, I'm on.
Let me just recognize Councilmember Feliz, who joined us also. Sorry.
Daryl Sims, please start when ready.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair De La Rosa, committee members and attendees. I am Darrell Sims, President of New York City Managerial Employees Association, MEA, and with me is Alice Wong, the Executive Director, MEA. We would like to thank the committee for providing an opportunity to testify on behalf of New York City managers and confidential employees. The MEA supports New York City Council Resolution number 481. On February 14th, 2022, the MEA wrote to the New York State Assembly and the Senate endorsing Bill A457 and Bill S5536, respectively, that have become known as New York State Legislation Bill A1435, New York City Teleworking Expansion Act. This bill is proposed as Resolution 481 for amendment into the New York City Administrative Code. Based on the experience and information expressed to me by the MEA Executive Board and our members, the ability to teleworking is one of the main issues confronting the municipal workforce today. The telework option will assist in the retention of existing workforce as well as attract new recruits into city government employment by providing location flexibility for the performance of work. However, MEA expresses concern regarding the potential for managers to be excluded from teleworking when implemented by agencies because managers' high level of work responsibilities and the assumption that a continuous in-office presence is required. Unionized city employees may not be dependent on Resolution 481 in order to have a telework option because of similar options being negotiated in collective bargaining contracts. Whereas managers are not subject to collective bargaining agreements, therefore Resolution 481 may be the only means of providing a telework option for managers, which would be at the discretion of the agency commissioners. The MEA strongly believes that there should be parity in telework options between managerial and unionized employees dependent on work responsibilities. Managers should be assured of similar telework options as unionized employees. As part of MEA's testimony, we will present our endorsement letter addressed to the New York State Assembly and Senate expressing our support and advocacy for this improvement in the work-life experience and the betterment of the New York City managers. In addition, we conducted a telework survey of our in-service managers that support Resolution 481. Please see attached documents that we will provide. Also, MEA supports Resolution 467.
Your time has expired.
And I will now relinquish to Ms. Wong to discuss the resolution, the results of our MEA telework survey.
Good afternoon, City Council members and attendees. I'm Alice Wong, the Executive Director of NYC MEA. MEA surveyed our members regarding work from home and its adoption of a future policy for New York City managerial employees. The survey also included questions related to the retention and job-related support systems. The morale of city managers is low because of no work from home option and other extremely important factors, such as the absence of pay raises. We found city managers to be significantly impacted financially by not receiving pay raises since October of 2019, especially with inflation being the highest in over 40 years. Another contributing factor for low morale is managers are performing extra work to provide coverage for the high number of vacancy positions without receiving additional compensation. To remedy the high number of job vacancy among municipal employees, the city must adapt to current employee needs by recruitment and providing work from home options. Our survey includes that 95% support work from home options, 67% say that the work-life balance has gotten worse since returning to the office, 74% work harder to fill open vacancies and believe that the lack of work from home is a main factor. 46% are seeking job opportunities elsewhere or considering retirement. 72% of managers have taken on additional work as colleagues leave. Top issues include IT infrastructure upgrades and equipment. Standardization of work from home city policy versus those per agency is of concern. Work from home policies may not be applicable to everyone, thus it may be an unfair policy. And then the flexibility of not committing to improve a work-life balance. Mental health should be a focus, and then that we should be more competitive in the job market to attract talent and retain current employees. With these are the highlights of the survey. A full report was previously provided to City Council. We look forward to continuing development of a working relationship and open lines of communications with City Council, and we thank you for your time and attention to these important matters.
Thank you very much. At this point, we call Tawaki Komatsu, please. Please feel free to start once the sergeant gives you the cue.
Hi, I'm Tawaki Komatsu. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. I've testified repeatedly to the City Council to no avail. I'm also a pretty bad public speaker. This public hearing today is about the use of cell phones, provided by the city for City of New York employees. I'm looking at an email that Eric Phillips sent on June 28, 2017 at 5:41 p.m., outside of work hours, where he sent it to Jessica Ramos, Howard Redmond, who recently pled guilty to a felony for obstruction of justice, also Andrea Hagelgans, Michael Casca, Kayla Arslanian, Marco Carrion, and Emma Wolf, the mayor's Bill de Blasio's former chief of staff. In that email, Eric Phillips wrote, he didn't threaten Steve while referring to Stephen Banks. And in another email message, Ms. Hagelgans sent an email about town hall meetings that I was illegally barred from, where she wrote, why did we use the term threat if he didn't? So the point is, this public hearing is about the use of cell phones outside of work hours. And in 2017, the City of New York employees were doing exactly that. They were using cell phones illegally to keep me out of public meetings that were public forums. And with regards to that point, this hearing itself was originally supposed to be held in City Hall today instead of here. New York State Open Meetings Law, Section 107, authorizes a judge to void today's hearing on the grounds that it was not conducted in compliance with New York State's Open Meetings Law. So long story short, this week I'm going to be filing papers in litigation to do exactly that, have a judge void today's hearing, and also void the hearing that was just held in City Hall on the grounds that it was not conducted in compliance with New York State's Open Meetings Law. And with regards to the email that I was just reading from, the emails I was just reading from, I'll submit that with my written testimony so that all of you can see, exactly who you followed into office to see, what exactly people like you will do in the future to make sure that when people has a view to express in a public meeting such as this, they're not barred from walking through the doors to talk to people like you, whether you agree with that view or oppose it. They still have a First and 14th Amendment right to express it lawfully without being discriminated against when they try to walk through those doors. Anyway, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
At this point, I would also like to call Heather James. I don't believe that she is present on Zoom, but if you are, please feel free to speak. Thank you. If there's anyone present in the room or on Zoom that has not had the opportunity to testify, please raise your hand. Seeing no one else, I would like to note that written testimony, which will be reviewed in full by committee staff, may be submitted up to the record up to 72 hours after the close of this hearing by emailing it to testimony@council.nyc.gov. Chair, we have concluded public testimony for this hearing.
Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone who came out and who delivered meaningful testimony today. The future of the city's municipal workforce is in our hands, and we look forward to using the tools at our disposal to make sure that we're taking into account the needs of workers, including expansion of remote work and other tools for productivity. We also remain concerned regarding the high vacancy rates and the proposed budget cuts that we foresee and have been proposed by Mayor Adams. And so we look forward to this conversation, and this hearing is adjourned.